basis of rating, evaluating, and measuring something that you've never seen. For instance, if I say to you right now, how many of you know what a digital thermal hunting scope is? I can almost guarantee none of you know. 100%. If Chuma, the soldier, was here, he also wouldn't know. If I call CID here, bring them here, they wouldn't know. So all our reactions to life are based on an introduction to something, whether that introduction was correct, corrupt, totally wrong, totally right, doesn't matter. The principle ultimately is what will determine this. Now, Peto is not here. I wanted to give an example. On Thursday, I took Peto totally off sound. And I said he can be involved just in connecting things, but under no circumstances do I want to see him behind the mixing desk. Now that sounds like a harsh requirement. For many years, I made the bold statement. That's one of the reasons Gumbo is totally hopeless behind the mixing desk. So what am I dealing with? Him and Peto have no love for music. Your children. Wasn't a mistake. We have two major challenges. Men who were not fathered, and by extension, men who cannot father. The example I am giving you of the sound equipment is the 100% answer. This is the reason why most of the men sitting here can drive their children to school, pick up their children from school, buy clothes for their children. They're going through the motions. They are going through what they heard and saw. The reason reason why men then will take their children to an expensive school, as you will know by now, is not because they can afford it. It is because they have been told and they have observed that if I take my children to Petra, it means I have money. I know I don't have the money, but I'd like people to think I have money. So they battle through years. One man, I tried to get him to remove his children from Petra. I went to Hillside Junior, got him 2 places for his son and his daughter. When he got home, where they were living without electricity in Woodlands, when I discovered they didn't have electricity, I took money from my pocket. This was in 2012. I gave him the $600. At that time, it would be about 2,000, equivalent of about 2,200 today. I gave him that money because when I went to their house, they had not had power for about 6-7 months. They never went to pay Zesa. They bought food. They didn't have Zesa, but their children were at Petra. By that time, they were owing Petra over 3,000 US. You are only as good as the picture that either came to you willingly or unwillingly. Sit up straight. Willingly or unwillingly. The absence of a father figure means if any of you grew up without a father, you actually have zero knowledge of what a father is. If you grew up with a father who was physically there, but not spiritually, mentally, and emotionally there, you know of a physical father, but you don't know what a father is. I hope this doesn't sound like an insult. Are you guys still here? Yes, those of you that want to sleep, by the way, I see some of you already dozing. Please feel free. Today is a simple day. I want to make this as light as possible. The reason this matters to me is because the way you behave in God's house can all be traced to this. If you are covered by any of this, Father, psychologically at the back of your mind is a swear word to you. That's the reason majority of you don't have the capacity to form a life-giving relationship. It doesn't matter how good a relationship will bring into your life. You will fight against it. And the reason you will fight against it is because there are unresolved issues concerning the word Father. Anyone who is a father figure, you will psychologically and subconsciously resist. There are statements that have been made by some of you concerning me in my absence, which you don't know I know. So how come I didn't challenge you? It's a waste of time. Things you wouldn't say about me in my presence, you can say about me in my absence. So I want us to go back now. The basis of life is predicated on a concept called family. The concept and construct of family is predicated on we'll come back to this not very long. Every one of these people has been designed by God to play a major role. The father is the head who sets the standards, meaning without this father, the standards are therefore non-existent. I've been asked to be involved in a project. In fact, it's 2 projects now, because someone phoned last night. It's 2 unrelated projects. And I was clear to this person. I said, I have actually no interest in this. The most I am willing to do is I can do the architecture of it. I can set up the systems and everything else. We will then appoint an executive team to run this and all and all. And the person said to me, how soon can you have it involves geological surveys and all and all and all and all. How soon can you come back to me with the geological surveys which will determine how much earth-moving equipment is required, any specialist equipment and all, and with the bills of quantities that are required? In other words, we want to know how much money this is going to require. The person who was calling me from abroad wants to invest themselves quite a substantial amount of money. As we spoke yesterday, their personal investment will be over 100,000 US. Having said that, I then reminded them. And I said, remember 2 weeks ago when you were in Zimbabwe, I told you, I am married to the ministry. I'm not married to business. This year I do out of fun. Every person who was supposed to be, or who's supposed to be involved in this project, has to be someone who has proven themselves, because I am not going to have someone just because they are in the church. If you've been unfaithful in God's house, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt you will be unfaithful in a business. Guess what the foundation is? behavior of yours and mine goes back to Father. Every strength of yours and mine, every weakness of yours and mine goes back to Father. So the structure God gives, the structure, the Father is the head who must set the standards, where the mother is the assistant head whose function is balance and nurturing. When a man or a woman grows up in a home where there is no father, what is missing is the standards. But when a man or a woman grows up in a family, they may have a father, but if they don't have a mother, they don't know how to bring balance to any situation, neither do they have the capacity for nurturing. To nurture means to take something, grow it, make it productive, give it a sense of self-worth, cause that thing not to exist for itself, but to exist for everyone else. Which is why, because many of our families now come from fatherless homes, or where the father was not physically present, even the women are no longer nurturing and cannot provide any balance. It was Abigail who stopped David killing Nabal. The children in a family are designed by God to bring joy Okay, if I remember the word, I'll put it for now. I'll use the word perpetuity. Watch. Standards, whether good or bad, will be perpetuated by children. We won't have the time today. This is where now that the Bible was supposed to answer this here, because now, Pastor, I never had a father in full. Or my father was there, but there was no mental, emotional, and spiritual standard and headship provided. How now, so am I doomed to perpetuating the curse of my father? According to the Bible, no, but The Bible never imposes anything on anyone. You are only as fast as you choose. You only change to the degree that you choose. I want you to see this. It says, do not be conformed to the but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, because if you do, you now provide godly headship and standards for the perpetuity of your sons, who will then take biblical standards, and those are the ones they'll take on. My question as we continue is, how many of us are doing that? So, where I differ with most people, I would rather my daughter got married to a poor man with a desire for God than a wealthy and godly man in church. I'll never allow it. My experience as a pastor is most men won't change. Sonny, to be sleeping at your age, I don't know. Are we saying this, beloved brethren? Can we understand this? Is this making sense? That's the structure of the family. Father, son, and children. There are caveats to that. The caveats are a father and a mother can adopt a child, and if the child is someone with a brain, they will grow up with parents, even though those parents are not the ones who biologically gave birth to them. A caveat is a man may marry a woman who already has her own children. The challenge in society is many times she's getting to a man who was never fathered. And then she hopes that that man will father her children. That is why in many such instances, otate wabo bagankosikazi bazathatha abantwana babakhulise, even when the man is a pastor and speaks in tongues. None of you who has no love for children has got a father in heart. And I don't mean your own children. Giving birth to your own children is not the passport to loving children. No. Loving children is a decision that you then develop. When I got married, I just hoped we will not have many visitors in our home. Number one. Number two, I hoped, in my warped brain at the time, we would then have all this time to just get to fellowship and know one another. We dated for 6 years. We got married in August. 2 months later, we had my nephew living with us, not visiting. Living with us. Was he forced on us? No. I took him. Okay. Did we make them this strong? Come again? Okay. All right. Now I can't live without people, number one. Number two, as I speak right now, when I'm done here with you guys, I'm going back home. I've got some little children who are at home right now. When I was leaving, they were just arriving, so I had to park the car, get out of the car. I didn't even talk to the mothers. I spoke to the children only, because those are the ones who came to visit. Pastor, how important is this? Are you saying that because I really don't care much for children, there is something wrong with my heart? Yes. Absolutely. 100% yes. The Lord Jesus Christ, he said to his disciples, because babies, children came. And like I said to you, if you have Jesus dominating your life, you will attract children automatically, whether in a supermarket, in a shop, walking in town, or anywhere. That's how you know how anointed you are, is whether children are drawn to you. Yep. That structure, we are going to come to it in a moment, because there is a problem. What is the problem? The problem is the distortion. The problem is the distortion. So, we have a generation which no other generation in history has experienced our levels of distortion. The enemy works over time to distort this. We've said what the function of the father is, what the mother is, what the child is. The Bible says God places orphans in families. Why? And the definition of family, until the Americans changed it, was a father, a mother, and children. It was not two lesbians and adopted children, or two homosexuals and adopted children. No. It was father, mother, and children. And traditionally, adoptions in the traditional past were adoptions of kin. And what does that mean? That means that I would go to a relative because I didn't yet have children. I would go to a relative, a sister, a brother, a cousin, not because they couldn't raise a child. Now, that's the narrative many of you have in your heads. You know, those ones are battling. No, it had nothing to do with battling. It was common, particularly in African culture, that even abadala, babebuya bati, lina selich, since you are married now, and you guys can't be staying by yourself, abadala would go and take umntwana from one of the relations, possibly your siblings or your cousins, bring them to you and say, that is now your child. And it wasn't done because you couldn't have children. It was done because you don't yet have a child and you needed to learn responsibility. So they would bring a young man who would then be helping with the cattle, with the responsibilities. They'd bring, if not a young man, a young lady who would be helping umalogazana with the cleaning of the house, with looking after the new home and everything else. And that child became your child. They may have had a different birth certificate and all, but the school they went to, you are the only parent that they knew. And every accomplishment they had, you're the one who sent them to school. You're the one who paid for everything else. In fact, it got to places where people's brains were still working properly. That the young lady now has finished school, and the young man says, I want to get married. And the father, the biological father, would say, go. The father who raised her is the one you must go and see. So the young man would then go there. That father would then say, please, we have had visitors. Can you come so that we can? If the father wanted, you would say, no, I have no need to come. It's your child. You deal with it yourself. And in most instances, what would happen is that person would then charge 8 head of cattle, $2,500 and all, or anti-bakona, batopi malizabo and all, and then they would take symbolically of the 8 head of cattle, they would take 2. Take the other 6, hand them over to those parents. The mother would take all of the mother's emoluments from that, take them. And what would happen in many civilized people is when he pitched up with the 6 head of cattle and say, I kept 2, I brought these, the person would say, no, take all of them. And then the person would plead with him and then eventually say, okay, I'll leave 4, I'll take 2 so that I've got 4, you've got 4. And it would be an agreement, not of fighting this one who didn't raise the child, is wanting things, or this one who raised the child is saying, this is my right. No, they are both arguing to say, no, you are the one who must keep this. But that comes out of men who have God's original mandate. So what has the enemy done? The enemy has turned this one into a woman, both physically and behaviorally. That's why now you have children in Europe who are growing up with two males. One is mommy, one is daddy. You have children who are growing up with two females. One is mommy, one is daddy. You confuse the child enough that the child knows nothing other than that. Let me go back to something I want you to note. Those of us who grew up without a father physically, it doesn't mean you don't have. He is there somewhere. You don't have the foggiest clue what a father is. You think you know, but in essence, you don't. Those that grew up without those that grew up with a father, physically there, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally not there, you don't have the foggiest clue. Really, I need to emphasize that. Those who know, so that's the caveat, are the ones whose minds have been transformed and now understand the relationship of God the Father, because they transitioned back after salvation and went and looked and said, what is a father? They sought out a person by reason of the revelation of scriptures. Found a man. He wasn't a perfect man, but someone who was there, who did a little bit of leadership and standards, such that they could go and say, I came to tell you that I wish to get married. And they said, congratulations, my son. Oh, you have made me so proud. And all, and they sent someone to go and buy beer for them because they were just sitting, doing nothing, and now it's because they are happy. And buying beer is the sign of how excited they are. They bought beer, they sat down and said, now my son, let me tell you what we must do. I want you to go to your uncle in Shurugwi. Go and see him. Tell him I sent you. Tell him what you have just told me, and then tell him I need him to come here and see me, not this Saturday, but Saturday month end. When he comes here, I will give him instructions on what he needs to do so that we can get this all done, so that you can get, in other words, that man with his beer provided leadership. You understand now why I'm always talking to you guys about providing leadership to these young people? You see how fast your volume went down. Those of you with families who are doing nothing about young people here, you are living in abject sin. Abject, disastrous, demonic sin. That's what you're doing. We're the house of God. Young people were not all meant to be coming to me. If all you care about is your business, how much money you can make, all you care about is your work, what kind of a human being are you? You're not a father. You're just male. we getting this, beloved brethren? And that's why there is need to fix the distortion. If I am a father, I'm a father because I'm providing leadership and standards. So that when I see a young man and I'm not happy about what I see, I can call the young man, sit down here. Come to my house. Young man, after the church, come and see me. After the service. Come, let's go and sit somewhere. Sit in the a boardroom or whatever, or go take a walk outside here. Young man, I saw this. I don't want to see it ever again. There's a difference between talking to a church member and talking to a son as a father. A young man who left this ministry this past week made my heart so glad. Unfatherable. He comes from a church where abafundis babethengelwa ngama grocery, and then he's the king. They used to, when they started coming to this church, they'd pass by the church where they were going to, then come here. Did that for, I don't know, 6 months, possibly a year. Why would you attend two churches that have nothing in common in terms of the spirit of what goes on in there? That boy was not a tither. Told someone some time back, said, I don't believe in tithing. Tithing is not there in the New Testament. Wicked liar. The sort of person who wanted to please me. You can't buy me because I don't relate to people because of what they do for me. No, there is no one here who's ever been treated differently because you bought me a present. No one. Not one of you. If there is, please remind me after the service. You can buy me a present, give it to me after the meeting. 3 minutes later, I will blast you if there is something you have done that I need to correct you. Why? Because the function of a father is to create standards. Are you guys sure you are hearing? Yes. There was a banker here in Bulawayo. In a nightclub with his son. Him with a girlfriend. Son with girlfriend. This is not a joke. Not a joke. Ubaba lo mntwana babebela ma girlfriend. Umntwana waqalisa ukunatha e nightclub. Lo baba yena engakabi lo mfazi. Ubaba uyabela ma girlfriend akhe. And marriage of his son finished. The man is dead now. I never forget one day, the daughter-in-law who happened to work for the company I used to work for, arriving at work wearing this tight crop top with denim jeans, written beach. Distortion on the mother. The mother is meant to bring balance and nurturing. This gets worse. When the man was absent, the young man, young lady is growing up without leadership and standards. Because the mother has now taken the place of the father. The mother is doing what she shouldn't be doing, what God didn't ordain her to do, what then happens is the young man or young lady doesn't know anything about balance and definitely has nothing to do with nurturing. That's why in church, many times we are battling with people. Abalent is your ezngela and ounce your zwelo. Are we understanding this, beloved brother? The child is designed by God to be a giver of joy and someone who then is receiving the baton from the father to hand over to his generation so that they hand over to their generation, so that they hand over to their generation, and so that they hand over to their generation. So let me show you how powerful the distortion is. The distortion right now is that because the man or the woman grew up without this, they've never given joy to their parents. Naturally, because they are the product of distortion and chaos, they will perpetuate, and what they will perpetuate is absence of leadership and absence of standards. And no balance, no nurturing, no joy, and that is what they will hand over to the next generation. Let me go through. Let me give you a few statistics before we then just have a discussion. That's assuming you want or are interested in this. So here are some stats I want to give you. Anyone notice I haven't gone heavy into scripture? Deliberately so, because over 65% of youth suicides come from fatherless homes. 90+% of all homeless and runaway children come from fatherless homes. 75% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. 71% plus of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 85% of children who exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 75% of adolescent patients in drug abuse centers come from fatherless homes. Children living with both parents but who have a poor relationship with their father are 70% more likely to smoke cigarettes, drink, or use drugs compared to all teenagers in a two-parent home. The kicker to this that I'm much more interested in, so that we realize that in the distortion, so that no one beats their chest. Uh, those two are exactly the same. The father who is physically not there, and the father who is not providing emotional, mental, and spiritual affirmation are the same sides, rather the two sides of the same coin. Their value is exactly the same. Let's talk. First of all, let me hear comments concerning this. Then we will go into questions. Because I don't want to be leading this, I've already led it. If there are no comments, it's also
Thank you,
proper.
Ted.
Yes.
Ted, when you were giving us the
Can
states,
we quickly adjust the volume?
when you were giving us the states, you said 70%.
Can take a microphone that can.
You said 70% of children.
Okay, there's something wrong. What's going on?
You said 70% of the children who had no relationship with both their parents, they gravitate towards smoking and drinking.
I didn't say both parents. I said who have a poor relationship with their father.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We had a poor relationship with their father. That's true, Ted. Because I come from a family of 7 boys, and out of the 7, I'm the only one who does not drink, who does not smoke. The rest, they drink. Then 4 of them, they smoke and they drink. Our father, he used to drink and smoke. So that's true, that what you just said.
Okay, before we sit down, what was the relationship between you guys and the old man?
Actually, I'm the only one who had a good relationship with my father, because he used to call me brother.
Okay.
He didn't call me by my name. He used to call me brother to me.
All right.
The rest, he had no relationship with them.
There you are. Thank you for sharing that. You can't make up the truth. The truth can't be cajoled, can't be created. Let's continue. If there is, because
what I see in the numbers is what you have always emphasized, the importance of family in the structure of humanity itself. Because where the head, the relationship of the head and the family is distorted, the resultant is the delinquency that we then see, and also where the mother is not there. Just giving an example of Adolf Hitler. His upbringing, he had no nature and balance, and the person that he then became was the monster that we all got to know. So to me, it really then shines the light that unless the family institution is made strong, what we are fighting with is a perpetual war.
Right. You are given an example of Adolf Hitler. Let me encourage you. Go and investigate the family lives of Zimbabwe's leaders. All right. Any other comment?
I'll also give an example of myself. My father passed away when I was in grade 6, but we had a very good relationship. And one of the things that he told me was, son, do not drink, do not smoke, but he was drinking and smoking. He told me there are reasons why I'm doing it. He was a war veteran and he came from the war, and that's why he started doing all that. But then he told me, don't drink, do not smoke. I have my reasons. And then my young brother, who didn't have time with my father, he didn't get that advice. So he started drinking and smoking. So that's the difference that is there when it comes to the fathering.
And I like what keeps coming out, because I didn't have the time, because I don't want this to be pedantic and boring. Right? Somebody else? There, behind you. So don't come behind the person, come to the front of him.
So it's just a comment. I live with my grandmother, and because the relationship is good, she sits me down and she starts to narrate the history of how they used to take people who were not their children and keep them. But then what really frustrates her sometimes is these people don't reciprocate to say thank you or to show gratitude, even when it comes to, being invited to weddings. She would have been the one who made sure that that person was fed, sent to school, but later on in life, there's no reciprocation of kindness. So could it be that that person, the family that they came from, affects the person so much that even when they are shown love, later on in life, they don't show kindness or reciprocate love?
It's not the family that is affecting them. It is the absence of leadership and standards. The absence of nurturing and balance. The fact that they themselves, by the absence of those things, have no joy, but will perpetuate the only thing they know. And the only thing they know is to give misery. Goes back to the heart of relationship. Yes, someone there.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
The examples that you are giving are very true. I've personally seen it like at Chabalala. Most homes, fathers are there physically, but they don't contribute anything to their children. And most of those boys are found at bottle stores. Sometimes you find they don't even have the money to buy the beer, but they would go to the bottle store early in the morning. They'll be asking for $2 so that they can buy beer and cigarettes. And there's this other example that you gave. I also saw a father having a same girlfriend with his son. They were meeting at the bottle store. The boy was sharing a girlfriend.
They're sharing
with,
a girlfriend
yes,
with the father.
with his biological father.
Now, the question becomes, what are the manifestations of these things in our midst here? What are the manifestations of what we have been teaching here, what we have been sharing, some of which we are repeating now as we talk? What are their manifestations in our midst? Because without revelation, how do you deal and address a thing? Are you guys sure you're getting this? Okay, you seem to be chickening out when we are bringing the roosters home. Because, see, one of the most disingenuous things you will ever do is to look beyond the fence when you have the same problem in your own home.
Thank you, Daddy. The manifestations will be revealed by division within the family members. You will be the same people in the family, but not loving one another, coming from the same father, same mother. That's the first thing. The manifestation will be lack of love, relationship within the family members. You can't relate as brothers. You can't sit as families to just chat and deal with the problem that will be happening in the family. Thank you.
All right. I don't want, I just want to make sure that we straighten that out. I don't want us to give a hypothetical. I want us to give, what they say, examples. So state, if necessary, with examples. Because if we say, in families it's seen with people not relating to one another, that's a bit too wide. How does it manifest in our own lives?
Afternoon, Daddy.
Hi.
The other manifestation that we see is
You can't start with the other.
the manifestation that we see is the orphan spirit that we have. We are not able to relate as sons because of the background, because we did not have that relationship with our own fathers. Most of the time, like for an example, like myself, I grew up with a father who was there physically, but he did not contribute. Like he would leave the chance ukukhuzwa lokhana ukuchaywa to my mother. He would not do such a thing. So the only ukukhuzwa okwakukhona, it was from my mother only. So from my father, then now at times I think that's when rebuke comes from a father figure, you then think it's too hard. You are not actually used to such, because you are used to that coming from the mother.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, you easily, the manifestation that is, you are easily, you are rebellious, one, then also you, what do you call? You take offense lightly when you are being corrected, because at home you were not rebuked, or you did not get any counsel of some sort.
All right. See, we are boiling this down to our own lives. The importance of it being, if we are able to bring it down to ourselves, then hopefully we have a chance to address it. In the absence of identification, there is no chance of fixing. Are we understanding this? Okay. Please continue.
Good afternoon, Daddy.
Hi.
I personally was raised by a single mother, and I've noticed that and I didn't have a relationship with my father until later on in life. And I've noticed the manifestation. I have difficulties in forming and maintaining meaningful relationships with authority figures and with peers.
Right. That's the difference between the answers we've been given so far. Disingenuity is when we try to use a shotgun, just shoot and see how far or how many you hit. Unless a man is able to acknowledge where they are, they have no chance of going to where they should be. If you are in the forest and you are lost, it is impossible to be able to navigate ukuthi ngisuke la nxa kuyikuthi ngilahlekele koBulawayo, until I know and I admit ukuthi ngise what is this area called? Belmont. Unless I admit that I'm in Belmont, how does anyone direct me to Pumula? We are ukuthi ngisuke ngithi head in which direction? Some of you are still not getting it. If someone phones you and say, I'm lost, I don't know where I am, I need to get to North End, how would you direct them to get to North End? Sorry? Ask them what? And if they say they don't know where they are, you can't help them. So the best you could do is to say, look around you, tell me what you see. Describe it for me. You are doing that in the hope. Eyakuthula umuntu will say, well, there is a building and it has this name on it. Then it's, oh, okay, I know the building. Or they will say, there is this structure made of metal. It is, when I'm watching videos, normally the reason I'm able to say, this is such and such a place, is because of how well traveled I am. There are times I look and I can tell, no, this is Cape Town, or this is Durban. This is this place in Durban, or related. Our challenge, one of the reasons why we are making very little progress in life, is first of all, the father figure is a swear word to us. That's why the only time you listen to me seriously is when you are in trouble. That's the only time. When things are crumbling around you, that's when you look for me. As soon as they get fixed, you have what you want. You don't need. The number of men who should be here is 3 times, 4 times the number of people who are here right now. They say to themselves, I don't need this. I don't need this. I want to show you something. I want to show you the effects and impact of an orphan spirit. There's a project that's going to be coming up to build 350 houses from scratch. I need someone to take out a calculator. What are builders' rates on average to build a 4-bedroomed house? I know them, but I don't want to give them to you. I want to hear so that I'm not imposing. Anyone know? 3 to 5,000, right? Anybody else? All right, I'll make it 4,000. Give me 350 times 4,000. Okay, that's taking a bit too long. These are labor only. This project, from my projection, will take 4 years. What is 1.4 million divided by 12? $106. 116. Sorry. That's wrong. 1.4 divided by 4. That's 350. 350,000. All right? 350,000, that's per year. What is monthly? 350 divided by 12. 25? 29,000? 29.2. Cabinetry. None of you know. I'll tell you. Cabinetry for that, in terms of labor, will be, I would say, 5,000. What is 350 times 5? Times 5,000. 1.7. 1.75. What is that divided by 4? 438. Sorry? 437.5. And divided by 12. Right. To me, say say 450 times 3. 1.350. So 1.350 times 350. 472.5. All right. $472.5. That's K. I'll show you why I'm doing all of this. 472.5K divided by 4. Sorry? 118K. 0.1K divided by 12. $9,000. Then do 1,200. What did we call the tiling? Oh no, 1,200 times 350. 420K. All right, divided by 4. 105. Divided by 12. 8,000. What did we pay for Lockview? Sorry, not Lockview. Yeah, Sunningdale, Lockview. What did we pay for that? 1.6. But that was a negotiated price. And that's half the size. So 4,000 times 350. Sorry? So the same as this one. So we'll just then take all the figures. Right. And then lastly, we'll take the 1.1, was it the 420? Was the 1.1 420 or 175? 1,100 times 350. Come again? What is 1.1 times 350? 1,100 times 350. 385. Okay. 385 divided by 4. 96,250. And divided by 12. What? Okay. So one of the things that we've been talking about for some time is faithfulness. This is a single project being done. In the single project, the owner of the project, what has been discussed is he is going to keep the project in-house, meaning you will create work gangs of qualified and skilled people. I want you to see this. Someone who is a builder will earn 1.4 million in 4 years. How many builders do you know who are earning this money? Hello? This person will be earning 29.2 a month. If you take assistant builders, what I believe, if I'm not wrong, a qualified builder right now, monthly, if I said, for argument's sake, if I say he earns 1,000, would I be exaggerating too much? Sorry? Okay. So that means this person here, if you said he's working with 10 builders and building 10 houses a month, that brings you to 120 houses per month, which fits in with the number of houses. Are you guys understanding any of this? So that means out of here, this person will be walking away with 19.2. Take away any other ancillary expenses if he promises them that he'll buy them food. Although I doubt that he'll pay them $1,000 and buy them food. But assuming he does, if he took away another 2,000, he's remaining with 17.2. This is on one project, meaning one person is going to have to go and camp there for 4 years. The carpentry, the cabinetry, the person is going to be making 36.4. Use the same calculations. If you assume that he is working with 10 carpenters, he is making about 22,000 a month. Not even a government minister who's not stealing makes anywhere close to that. A tiler is going to be making that. Assistants for tilers, if I'm not wrong, make $300. Someone please correct me quickly. Sorry? $300. 10 times 3 is 3,000. This person is walking away with just over 5,000. The electrician, the difference being, this work here on a house, this person doesn't have to be full-time. Because you can, if he knows what he's doing, you can wire up a whole house in one day. So that means this person needs to work 10 days a month. The rest, he can go and do whatever he likes. The one who does roofing and the one who does plumbing. Why am I bringing this example to you? Because until you and me recognize that the Bible says he will visit the sins. What are sins? The word sin means to miss the mark. The sins of who? The fathers. What is the function of the fathers? Leadership and standards. So the mark they missed was to lead and set standards. That he will bring this upon the children. How many of us are paying for that? Yep. Beloved brethren, all of this year, guess what? These are all choices. The first person I spoke about wants to partner with someone in a gold mine. And I told them, I have absolutely zero interest in gold mining. This person is so urgent to do this. They were asking me last night after the meeting, would it be possible to get this started by end of November? And how can they bring the money in? So I spoke to them, telling them, you've got earth movers because you're not going to be using diggers. So I said to them, you'd need excavators, you'd need front-end loaders, you'd need dozers. Please, these are their words. Can you please get me a quotation and send them to me? Kulabantu ophetha nabangabuye ku meeting like this. Bagijimisa khonokho, which is coming knocking its door on someone who has no interest. Why? Because you seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and he adds these things unto you. You don't seek things. You seek the kingdom and his righteousness. The absence of standards is the reason why we never deliberately think of God's house. Almost everything we do in God's house, we do it in the cut. None of you would dare get to your work the time or the way you treat how you come to God's house. Leadership and standards. So there is a violation. Let me show you this. How many of you, don't answer me, how many of you deliberately miss meals? How many of you have the same commitment to God's house that you have to eating? How many of you have the same deliberate commitment to your calling in the kingdom that you have to chasing money? Standards and leadership. So, why is it that after hearing all of this, we hear, but somehow we make it through the door unmoved? How would it be normal for a person to see umuntu who insisted on testifying herself as diagnosed with cancer, UBH, said, no, go to palliative care. But you'll come and sleep in a meeting like this. The way God deals with me is according to impact. I want you to listen to this. I was in Botswana, in Francistown with our father in the Lord, when a woman whose spinal cord and system had fused because of cancer, that woman was on a 4-leg walker, lifted the walker, walked to the front. There were other, that wasn't the most drastic miracle that people remember. That one broadsided me in a way because I could see the cancer in her back, how the bonds would not move because they were fused together. The impact on me that night, because I was also fasting, the impact on me that night, I left there, got home, went into my bedroom to just thank the Lord. When I woke up, thank the Lord. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. The first shocked person was that woman when, first of all, I told her to stand up. She rolled on her side. You could see drastic shock on her face. When she stood up, and I told them to leave her, I think at first she thought she was dreaming. So how is it possible that you as a father, understanding the impact that you have on your children, let alone on your own life, that we will behave the way we do? The most impactful thing said today was by those who brought the word home. I was raised by a father, 7 children. I'm the only one who had a relationship with him, and I'm the only one who's not doing what everyone else is doing. I was raised by a single mother. I didn't have this, and I noticed I have a challenge. You know why I'm mentioning those two? Because what we have been trained as men to do is to deflect. Deflect. The Bible says, he who covers his own sins shall not be healed. In all my travels around the world, one reason why I say to the Lord, I refuse to be involved in sexual immorality, was actually because of my children. You know what the reality is? They've got their own lives. It doesn't mean that they are not going to do it or they haven't done it, because they have their own covenant to walk with God. The one thing they will not do is to be able to stand there, point a finger and say, the Father you gave us. Beloved brethren, let me tell you this. Our lives have been impacted and continue to be impacted negatively with prayer involved. This young man doesn't have a father here. This young man does not have a father here. That young man does not have a father here. I didn't say they don't have fathers. I said here. When a child is lacking what we ourselves, in my generation and those immediately behind me, are suffering from in the church, what kind of language? Before we take ownership, how many people need to suffer because of our carnality? To this day, one thing we have failed to produce is leadership. One thing we have failed to produce is standards. These young people were supposed to be coming here, bazengadisa, watching as men worked because they don't have it at home. Unfortunately, they came to church, found home, had transferred to church. Until you recognize your own infirmity and acknowledge it, you will never see the need to be healed. And if you don't see the need to be healed, you will never develop the compassion to see someone else healed. Awuzakubona iziphofu zisolemnize ukuthi khona kulezi phofu. I have a book that I am cleaning up on the impact of fathering and sonship. My concern, Mina, as we're here right now, is majority of us are mentally not anywhere near where we can begin to address it. Because either we are going to start talking about everything in the third person when people do this, when that happens, instead of I have a problem. The prodigal son didn't say it would be good if a rebellious son would go back to his father. No, he didn't say so. He says, I will depart right now. I will go to my father. I will say, Father, I've sinned. Let me finish with this. Government has said now that farms can be sold. They're going to have to work through the mechanisms and all and all and all and all. Because we know that was meant to facilitate thieves who have subdivided farms, sold them, who are high-ranking ZANU-PF members. So the only way you wipe away their crimes is to make the crime legitimate. But here is the difference. The difference is there are some people like me who actually have those farms up to 120 hectares. That 120 hectares is equal to 300 acres. That 300 acres divided at half an acre at 2,000 square meters will give you about between 4 and 450 lots. If I do 450 lots and sell them for $10,000, I'd sell all of them before you blink. That will be an equivalent of 450,000, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct? Sorry? 4.5 million. Survey costs will cost me mostly 70,000. Servicing costs will cost maybe in the region of about $500,000. I'm trying to teach you something. The reason majority of you over 9 years that I spoke and you didn't hear anything is because the person who was talking to you was your enemy. Your father relationship determines the father you hear. God, the Father, cannot possess the ears of a man whose relationship with their father is not resolved. What is his biggest title? Is it El Shaddai? No, it's not. Is it Mighty God? No, it's not. Is it Jehovah Rapha? No, it's not. His biggest title is Father. And what I'm saying to you right now is if you don't resolve this in your hearts, you are living here today the same way you came, carrying the same mentality you carried. That is why when a person who is a father speaks, I love the word he used, authority figure. You listen, but you don't hear. So in the next couple of years, when everything is happening here, unless today marks a change, you will be offended. And when you're offended, it's a standard. Guess what you'll do to your children? Guess what you'll do to your wife? You will impart and impact them with offense. My relationship with Dr. Enenche was the foundation that my wife landed in Abuja and went and spent time with Dr. Becky. By the time she came out of there, she was carrying outfits and other things. In fact, Dr. Becky sent a person, go home, go and collect such. This is the person she was meeting for the first time. What is it that you have subjected your children to? My daughter Juanita went to her mother and said, please, can I come to Abuja? I wasn't prepared for her trip. Because depending on what she wants to do, that's adding another, say, 2.2 to 2.5 thousand on our bill. Without thinking much. Was absolutely. When Dr. Enenche and Mama Becky see Juanita, you must see what they do. She is enjoying the fruits of leadership and standard set by her father. And I'm appealing to you. Because majority of you, you've set a standard that is the opposite of what God designed for you and the reason you are still breathing. Our despising of God's house, majority of you, you are not givers by any stretch of the imagination. It is not an issue of not having. No, it's an issue of relationship and value system. The standard was set by someone of the way you give. Evangelism. That's why to this day, the impact of all of you sitting here, in the exception of maybe 2 or 3 people, your impact is zero when it comes to soul winning. It's not an attack of the enemy. Your impact in God's house, in terms of taking leadership, why? There is a convoluted heritage. Salvation didn't address it. Father is still the absence of a physical father or the presence of a father who didn't provide mental, emotional, and spiritual leadership. That's the leadership that's still happening right now. The same leadership that has caused me to sit down pastors. And the reason I sit down pastors is because I'm thinking of the young people in church. That I have allowed them to call a person pastor. They have never seen anything of leadership or anything from that person. So I've got to come to the place of integrity where I have to strip that person of that title, or else I'm going to destroy these young people who will go. Tomorrow, they go to South Africa. Many of the churches there where spiritual impact is this big, they will lead prayer one day. Pastor will come and say, I'd like you to be assistant pastor. Here they were usher, and it has happened thousands of times. That their pastoring is going to be based on wrong models which I allowed. Have you broken off from the distorted leadership? Have you broken yourself off from the distorted standards? If the answer is no, tomorrow I'm going to go to Garrison. Normally, I'd like to spend Christmas for me is when I spend 3 days at Garrison. I have zero chance of that in the near future. We'll arrive at Garrison between 4:30 and 5. Me and my wife start cooking. I've got an idiot at the farm who uses gas. He doesn't have 0.1% of what I have. He uses gas. If I ask those of you who have come to the farm, can almost guarantee you, you can count on your hands the number of times you have seen my wife using gas. By nightfall, we are going to go take a shower. By mid-morning, we are going to leave, come back. To lead the meetings, some of you, by reason of standard and leadership, you just attend meetings enough just to justify that I'm still in leadership. I'm still in leadership. We're raising young people who are supposed to see fervency, fire, brutality, the heart of a warrior from their own fathers and men in the church. These young people are going to be going to university. They are going to go to Botswana, South Africa, where sin, sexual immorality makes Zimbabwe look like heaven. What are they going to stand on? What is the leadership and the standard they are going to stand on. Can they look at any of you? You. Any of you. And stand. When they arrive at, whether it's University of Botswana, University of Cape Town, are they going to be part of the Students' Union, the Christian Union, or they'll join the pub? The decision is yours and mine. We'll take a moment and pray before we leave. After we have prayed, I will give the benediction and then we will go. Nobody can change what you have no desire to change. Young people, please listen to me. Listen to me. When you hear any word, when you hear the pastor say, we need to clean the toilet, be the first one. If you hear the pastor say, we need to do this, be the first one on site. Let me end with my story. My father would be, if there were 200 men and there was something that needed to be done, my father would be number 200. I never saw my father lead anything to the day he died. There is no standard, my father said, that I live by or that I can remember. So how did I make the shift? First of all, there is a basis called desire. I live by a life and a motto that says no excuses. None, nada, zero. Secondly, when I got born again in Zayoja. The people there were not modeling like sometimes we see our men praying. No. It was brutal prayer. Even though at times it was maybe a bit misguided, it didn't matter. It taught me that prayer was the realm of warriors. Prayer is not the realm of diplomats or nice men. Prayer, especially intercessory prayer. People are busy going overseas, going everywhere, trying to run away from the tail that is attached to their body. I've told you about Nigerians. The first African bodybuilding champion of the world is a Nigerian. He got crowned this last weekend. Dauda. That's his name. Those of you who come from homes, men who cannot make the transition, if you don't make a transition, you will just be an extension of history. Not everyone can cross the bridge, I'm telling you now. In fact, let me be very frank and say the majority don't have the capacity. Not because they cannot. They just don't have the appetite. I guarantee you right now. If you take me, put me in the UK, within 3 months I'll be running my own business. You take me, put me in Johannesburg, in Cape Town, in Durban, I'll be running my own successful business. I've never been a slave. My understanding of the scriptures informs me of a status which I either accept or I reject. Some of these men you see sit down and start sleeping. That's a spiritual reality they will exercise to the grave unless something drastic happens. Can I be more brutal? You will never see a sleeper becoming a ruler. Rulership is not a gift. You will never see a man who doesn't have authority over his own body having authority over anything. People have come to me to give all sorts of excuses. It's just a condition. It's not a condition, it's a decision. Because we want to give excuses to things. If my wife was to tell you my eating regiment during this season, you would either repent or backslide. Greatness has never been a gift. And I want us to understand that you have to start somewhere, but where you start must never be where you end. Where you start must just be the marker. I want us to take this moment. We'll take about 3 minutes. I don't know what you heard today, but why was this necessary? Why did I spend the whole morning in my room until I came out to come here? Until you make a decision which is not empty words that are backed up by action, nothing changes. The tail of the violation of leadership and standards never leaves a man until the man takes a machete, a chainsaw, or an axe, chops off the tail, bleeds, feels the pain, cries, hides if they need to, treat the wound until it is healed. That doesn't happen. Your future has already been prophesied by your past. But however, you can decide a new future today. Let's pray. Mercy. Mercy. Jesus. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. Therefore have I poured out my anger upon them. I have consumed them with the fire of my wrath. Their own way have I recompensed unto their heads, saith the Lord. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and shall do exploits. Father, tonight we come before you and ask for your mercy. Ask for your grace. Ask for your forgiveness. We have been those who are ever hearing, but never coming to the knowledge of the truth. Cleanse us from the error of our ways, that we will not raise up a generation of men who are spiritual failures, emotional failures, mental failures. Remember us this day, my Father. Let the destruction of every wicked altar that you have allowed us to go through be the setting free of destinies, be the expression of God in the lives of his children. We came to cleanse ourselves. We came to plead for your mercy. We came to ask for your forgiveness. Oh Lord, be glorified in our lives. For the time to favor Zion is now. Yes, the set time. Father, today, for upon Mount Zion there shall be deliverance, and the sons of Jacob shall possess their possessions. For a glorious throne from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. Father, thank you for a new day. The minds and in the hearts of your children. Forgive us for perpetuating the baton handed to us that provokes you to anger. Do a new thing in our midst. Forgive the error of our ways. Glorify yourself in our hearts. May you be seen and known in our lives. In the name of Jesus, we have prayed tonight. Amen.